All right, so we're down here at storage, gonna get the boat ready and just double check and make sure everything's going, but damn, come on. As per usual, supposed to run this boat down to Charleston today from the North Carolina line. No trim, no horn. The only thing that's turning on is the radio, but even it's not working. It's just powering on. I guess the batteries are dead again. So I get unlucky and go through batteries like once every 2 years. I got to figure out a better solution to this because this is just not working. And it's my fault. This boat, I haven't touched it in 4 months. It's been just sitting here, and there's no power where I'm at here at storage. And unfortunately, I always show up and these batteries are dead. But what's really bad about these ones is I actually brought this boat home a week and a half ago, did some work on it, and charged the batteries to full, and still came back and they're dead, which tells me that they're done. So it's time to find a new battery, but I think it's time to switch, man. I've been doing lead acid forever. I'm gonna do a little research and get back to you guys here shortly and see what we're gonna do. All right, so obviously one of the decisions you need to make when it's time to go ahead and replace batteries is where are you gonna go with this? The reality is there's a plethora of options and ways and types of batteries to change to now. Most people still will go with the traditional lead acid or even an AGM battery in your boat. But what you really need to do when you're trying to determine which battery you'd like to go with, you really need to stop and think about the application that you're using and what's not working in your current setup, and why you would switch to something else to possibly fix or resolve the issue that you're having. So my issue is a little bit unique to me, but the reality is I actually believe a lot of people who watch this video will find themselves in a similar spot. So I've been going through batteries every 2 years or so on boats for many reasons, but the biggest one I firmly believe is I don't live full-time in one location. And I have multiple boats in multiple locations. So what happens is they don't probably get used as much as I would like to use all of them. While all of them get used throughout the season, I'm not out there every single day like a charter captain or something driving the boat all the time. And most boaters that I know, well, they're weekend warriors as well. Some of them have a shorter boating season of 3 or 4 months, and they're only out there during the weekends during those 3 or 4 months. Then the boat goes into storage. And then you need to pull the battery, find a way to maintain it, and take care of things like that. Well, one of the situations I run into is my boat stays in storage away from my home. I do not have power there, so in order for me to properly do this right now, I really need to pull the batteries that I have, bring them back home, leave them on battery tenders over the winter, and then bring them back down in the spring. I'm trying to make boating as easy as possible for myself. I don't want a lot of extra headaches and having to do a lot of extra tasks. Really, I want to show up and be able to boat when I want to boat. And that's not been happening as I've been using lead acid batteries over the years, because what winds up happening is my boat winds up sitting in storage for 2 or 3 months. I go, take it down to the boat ramp, attempt to start the boat to find that it won't crank over, or I'll have a slow crank and it just won't quite turn over. Because the reality is on a lead acid battery, when that battery gets down to about 60 to 50% of charge, it no longer has the voltage left in it to go ahead and turn your motor over. So I knew that was one of the issues that I was leading into that I needed to try and resolve, which was one, find a way to keep the batteries on a tender all the time at the boat, which really isn't possible because where I store the boat, there's no power there. Or two, I'm going to have to go through the process of pulling these batteries out of the boat every single year and then going ahead and keeping them on a tender and then putting them back in, which is going to lead to actual less boating time for myself, because all of a sudden I'm going to stare at these batteries downstairs and be like, I don't feel like putting those back in. I'm going to go to the pool or go wherever else instead of going on the boat that particular day. So what I was trying to figure out is what will be the solution to my problem. And then I came across lithium. Now, lithium, the reason I believe it will be the solution to my problem is because lithium batteries hold a higher voltage all the way through the actual battery cycle. In other words, if this battery right here is at a 20 or 30% charge, it actually should still have enough voltage and power to go ahead and start that motor. Compared to the lead acid battery, when it's anywhere near 50 or 60%, it's kind of a crapshoot as to whether it'll really do it. So the reason I opted to go with lithium was that because of my situation, because of the fact that I don't have power where I'm at and a way to consistently power the batteries and keep them charged up and topped off, I wanted a battery that would perform even if it's at a lower percentage in the charge zone. So I've opted to go with lithium. Now, in doing my research on the lithium batteries, that became the next part, was trying to determine which battery I was going to use. And the company I ran across that seemed to be a popular option was Epoch batteries. And the more I dug into their dual purpose battery, the more I looked at it and decided this could possibly be the solution to the problem that I'm having. And one of the biggest keys with that is it's got multiple features that will actually help out with the problem that I'm having. So one, I do have battery on-off switches before anybody thinks that I don't on the boat. And in fact, my boat's got a 3-bank system, and all 3 banks even are isolated with their own on-off switch. But the Epoch battery actually even has its own on-off switch on the battery itself to help reduce any of that phantom drain you might have while your boat's sitting in storage over the off season. So I reached out to Epoch Batteries and their customer service team, explained the situation that I was having, the type of boat I have, and the battery configuration I have in the boat, and they came back and said, hey, BG, go ahead and do this. Try 3 of our dual purpose batteries, replacing the 3 current battery setup you have, and let's see if that one will work for your system. Now, I'm gonna be 100% honest. This is not a commercial for Epoch batteries. They did not pay me a dime to do this, and in nowhere have I signed anything stating that I was gonna be nice to them even. If things go wrong, I promise you the first thing I'm going to do is come back on here on a video and tell you guys that things went wrong. But today what we're gonna do is I'm gonna go out there and I'm gonna install these batteries, replacing the old ones, hopefully take the boat for a spin and see how it actually performs, and hope everything works again. Because the last one, as you saw in the beginning of the video, when I showed up at the boat, nothing was working. I turned those batteries on and motors weren't cranking, trim wasn't working, power pole wasn't working, the radio turned on, but like I could barely hear anything coming out of it. And those batteries had been fully charged just a week prior, letting me know that those batteries, again, were dead after 2 years. So I'm hoping that this will resolve that issue. Now, the Epoch battery does come with an 11-year warranty. So with that, no matter what, even if they die before then, I should be able to call Epoch, I'm guessing, and they will actually replace the battery. So when I said all that they didn't pay me, I was on the phone with them, explained who I was a little bit, and they did send me the 3 batteries for free. So I'm gonna be upfront on that part, but again, my opinion's my opinion. They have no say in this video. In fact, they don't even get to see the video before you guys do. When this video is airing right now, that's when they're seeing it as well. But let's go ahead and get these batteries installed, and let's see how the boat performs with lithium batteries versus the old setup.
So here we go, we've got the old Twin V240. Right here you can see our 3-bank setup. We've got 1 deep cycle battery and 2 cranking batteries. Of course, we're gonna be pulling all 3 of these out and replacing them with 3 dual purpose Epoch batteries. And we're gonna see exactly how this one performs. These batteries are trash. I'm telling you right now, not one thing's working here. Everything on the boat basically is dead, and I just recharged them last week and it didn't do much of anything. One cool part about this is I am on 3 separate banks. Each one is isolated by its own, and I'm hoping that's gonna help with the lithium.
And of course, as with any boat project that I try and complete, it does not go as planned. So what should have been a simple hour and a half, 3 battery swap, getting them set up on the old app and everything worked out, has not gone that way. Right now, I am 3 hours into this project, and as you can see in the background, I am sitting in the Lowe's parking lot, and it's because some of the terminals that are included in the Epoch battery kit, they were just not long enough to handle the amount of connections that I had, and it was close. So close, that's what took so long, was like, I'm gonna get this, and after fighting with them for an hour, I just couldn't, and I was like, you know what? Even if I get them on at this point, it's not going to be safe. I need longer posts. So we're going to go into Lowe's and try and find some posts. But something to keep in mind, if you buy these from Epoch or whoever, take a look at the posts that are included and base on how many things you have on that battery. So the one that I'm struggling with has 4 rings on it. The post will hold 3. Anything that's got 4 connections, and even that 4th connection I have is a tiny connection. But unfortunately, it's on the house battery, and it's managing my C-Star system, which means I can't pull it to one of the other batteries where I had a little extra space, because that would defeat the purpose of having the house battery, as everything's on that C-Star system for the house. So we're going to run into Lowe's, try and see if we can find a terminal, and hopefully get this done today. What sucks about this is I thought I was going to be able to test the boat today, and I got a feeling I'm going to run out of time now. All right, so a quick run to Lowe's, and we come back with this. And these are M8 20s. So I'm hoping this is going to work. I believe it's an M816 is what they actually sent in the kit. So we're hoping this is going to be long enough to get the desired effect. All right, so here we go. Finally, might be hard to see, but there's power on the GPS. We've got some power on. and the Epoch batteries are installed. So there we go, 3-bank system. I got to do some finishing touch-up work. Like you see, I put one of the pole covers on here and I have not on the other ones, but basically wanted to really just kind of get them going and see how it was going to go. What's pretty cool is they each have their own on-off switch. So on top of the safety and security of having everything isolated, when I'm leaving the boat, like now, I'm going to turn them off. So I will be able to physically turn off at the battery as well as my switches that I have. So another part that's pretty neat is I've got the app, and the app will show you the state of charge of all 3 batteries. So I can kind of see exactly what's going on with all 3 batteries as we're kind of going underway or just sitting at the sandbar, and see and make sure they're charging, which should add a little extra convenience and safety. So you know if something's wrong or the battery's getting low, you can go ahead and get it power back up. I tried everything. So trim's working now, my power pole's working, GPS is on, radio's on. None of this stuff would come on before. So that just tells you, I mean, even when I put the battery switches on all, not a single one of them would come on. So that lets me know that that one was just completely toast. But now all that's left to do is I got to clean up this mess that I've made on this boat while I was doing this. And it's 5:45, sunset 7:15. Unfortunately, I just know that I could go down to the boat ramp, but it's going to be packed with everybody trying to leave. It's a Sunday, so I'm going to probably have to wait until Monday to go really try it and see what happens with these batteries underway out on the water. But I look forward to seeing that one, and we'll catch you guys when I get ready to do that. All right, so a day later, back down at the boat. Unfortunately, like I mentioned, we ran out of time yesterday, but now we're going to go ahead and give it the moment of truth, and let's try and fire these bad boys up on the new battery. Clean start. You might not be able to hear it. I'm trying to hold the mic in, but the Suzukis are really quiet. Ran it for a second down here, and even at an idle, I appear to be holding charge, but again, I think I'm way overpowered on the banks. But we're going to see what happens as we try driving down and make sure we don't get any voltage spikes. Let's do it. All right, guys, so here we go. Right now, our alternators are showing voltage on both. We're at 13.6, 13.7, so we look pretty good right here. And the Epoch batteries, we're recording the screen on this one. They're all over 50%, so for the most part, they're moving, but we're gonna go ahead and accelerate on this, and let's see what happens with the voltage as we go.
Now this is the real test, because what we're looking for here is voltage. We want to see how the Suzuki outboard engines actually interact with the batteries themselves. Lithium batteries are a little different than your lead acid battery, as these batteries have a battery management system on board, and that battery management system monitors several things, but one of the big ones is input voltage. So for example, the Suzuki outboards are going to vary in voltage depending on where you are in the rev range or upon acceleration and deceleration, and if you wind up getting a voltage spike of a certain peak, it is possible that the battery management system could actually cut the battery out, causing your engine to stall, or maybe even worse, some sort of electronical malfunction. Now, one of the really cool parts about the Epoch dual-purpose battery is they understood this, so they actually designed this battery to handle higher voltages than your traditional lithium battery. So the battery management system cutoff on this one is 15.4 volts. My Suzuki outboards regulate at 15.2 volts or less. So as long as my Suzuki outboard is performing as it should, I should never have an issue. And as you can see from here, we're not hitting anywhere near those peaks.
All right, so we're still back out here on the boat. I'm recording the screen now as I'm looking at this. And in playing with it, I figured out a couple things on my charging system. I didn't really have the house battery charging. The amps weren't going up on it. But now as I go into the app and look, I'm pumping 11 amps. I was only pumping 3 amps at the start. And I've just put my battery switch on all. Those engine batteries are definitely going to fill up. So probably what I'll have to do with this is possibly get a DC to DC charger and let those batteries kind of fill the house battery up a little more, because they're drawing more amps, or returning more amps. So right now, this battery, it looks like it's 11.1 amps, but if I go to one of the engine hour batteries, I believe they're sitting at about 15 amps, so not quite the same draw, and it doesn't matter which one I go to, they're both still pulling 15 amps. But so far everything still looks good. I've not seen any voltage spikes and been out for about 45 minutes now, running through the rev range, and nothing crazy at this point for me. So all looks good. I've got clean power, radio sounds great, everything's working, which was the issue I was having. Nothing was working on the boat. The batteries were absolutely trashed. So far, really impressed with the app too. I mean, there's a lot of information in here that I really don't understand. So, I'm still trying to figure out if the amperages of the return charging amps and the power watts. I don't know if that's a charge or that's a draw or what, but right now it's definitely putting in more than it's taking out. We started at 50%, and all of my batteries at this point in time or over that. The house battery I just figured out, and I'm assuming it will get itself up to about 10% less than the other batteries as we continue to go now. But pretty cool. I mean, the app messes with me a little bit the way it keeps flopping through these batteries, but I need to go ahead and change the names on them to where at least I know what they are on there as well. But I'm gonna go ahead and run this boat out, and hopefully no more issues with batteries for me, man, and I won't have to worry about this stuff so much. And it's just a beautiful day out here on the water. Absolutely calm, amazing, and you know what? It's just been a good one, and I'm hoping these batteries are the solution to my problem. But guys, I'm not a battery expert by any stretch of the means, so these batteries worked for me, and I've watched the voltage on my engines. I've not even hit 14 volts at any point in time on my Suzuki engine gauges, so I'm pretty confident that I think I'm gonna be good. Now, the batteries are low, so I'm assuming once the batteries are 60, 70, 80%, I might see some higher voltages, but until then, I mean, this seems like a good setup for my boat. And it might be a good setup for yours too if you're having similar issues as we talked about earlier in the video. But I'm going to run around. If there's anything else to report, I will let you guys know.
So after spending about 2 hours out on the boat, enjoying a wonderful evening boating around, things went perfect. We had no issues, all of our electronics were working, and the batteries and the engines appeared to play nice together. So at this point in time, it appears that the setup works for me. Now, one thing I would urge anybody on this, every boat's a little different, every outboard engine's a little different. Even if you've got the same Suzuki 150s on your boat, it doesn't necessarily mean that your charging system is working exactly the same as mine. Again, every boat's a little different. All my banks are isolated by themselves, so my system might operate a little different than yours. So do your research before you go out there and just jump in and try and buy something. But one of the things I would say on this, I'm really hoping this solves the problem that I had. That no more me showing up at the boat and all of a sudden the boat won't start because the battery's been depleted below that normal operating voltage. But overall, I'm pretty pleased with the batteries at this point in time. Glad I made the jump. I was a little nervous at first because you do hear some horror stories about lithium batteries out there, but the more I thought about it, they can't all be bad. In other words, sure, you hear the horror stories, and this channel lives in doom and gloom, as you already know, but the reality is there wouldn't be a market for lithium batteries if there weren't just more success stories than failure stories out there. And they're really just starting to get into the starting battery market, so we're pretty new into this one, but I gotta say, as of now, it worked great for me, but I'm looking forward to the long-term review 6 months, a year down the road to let you guys know exactly what happens, because really what I'm looking forward to is getting these batteries up close to that 100% of charge and seeing what kind of voltage we're operating at that point.
All right, guys, so we're at the end of the day, and I told you I'd let you know the end result, and we didn't have any cutouts, no voltage issues whatsoever. Overall, batteries performed flawlessly. Everything worked the way it was supposed to, and we actually wound up gaining a ton of power. We left with 50% on all three. The two starting batteries are now at 75 and 78%, and the house battery's at 63. And that one probably could have been charged a little better if I'd have realized the setting I needed it on to begin with, because it wasn't getting the correct amount of amps. But you can see now that right here, there's no pull on those because the motors are off. Let's do the house battery. The house battery, you can see there, I've got a -2 amp current charge because there's some lights and stuff on the boat. -2. So once again, everything before was all positive. We were never pulling more power than we were actually putting into the batteries. So overall, pretty happy. The cool part was that they started at 50% power. If this was lead acid batteries and we tried to start them at 50% power, there's no way in hell these motors would have cranked over. So, but now I'm gonna put her in storage, and the cool part about this is there's on-off switches on the batteries too, so I should be good to go. But guys, if you're thinking about going lithium, don't let all the horror stories scare you. It's not as bad as it might sound, and in fact, these Epoch dual purpose batteries worked out perfect. Now, of course, I'll come back in a few months and do a long-term review on these particular batteries, and the second, if I have any issues, I will let you guys know, because I was curious and skeptical on this one as well. But right now I'm pretty excited, but hopefully I'm found the answer to the problem I was having, where my batteries were always dead every time I came back to the boat. But guys, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this one, and as you can tell, we did not make a $30,000 mistake. The outboards are still intact, nothing's on fire, nothing blew up, nothing crazy, and I'm pretty happy with it. And overall, I mean, you might not need to go as big as I went. I think I went overkill. I have way more amp hours than I possibly need, I believe, on this boat. So thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you in the next one.